I waited for him to finish the whole thing, but I'm like, Fags, I want to know if I want to go to Brisbane. He's like, right. I'm like, shit, he's going to punch me. And then he's like, do you want an extra year at Hawthorn?
Very excited to have Luke Hodge on Shaped. I'm gonna roll out your stats, and I'm sure you get awkward like most people that have done a lot in the game. But 4-time premiership player, 3-time premiership skipper, 2-time Norm Smith, 3 times All-Australian. One of those you were the captain. 2-time Peter Crimmins medal, which is the BNF for Hawks. AFLPA best captain, Hall of Fame inductee. That was just this year.
Yes. Yep.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Also a marathon runner.
Just.
This podcast is absolutely not just about, the highs of your football journey. It's more about the moments in time through your life, not just the sport, that have kind of shaped who you are today. Let's talk about the marathons though, because I mean, you don't necessarily look like a marathon runner.
No, it's been said to me before that I don't have the shape, or I was never a great runner. To be honest, it came after COVID. I'd finished up, and to be honest, I had a bet with Damien Monkhurst. He goes, this is back at Hawks. He said, I can guarantee you with your body shape, 12 months after you're finished, you'll be over 100 kilos. And it got to about 6 months after I finished, and I was getting close. I'm like, I can't lose this bet to Monkey. So I had a mate, COVID was on, so we started training for the Gold Coast Marathon in 2021.
Nice flat one to start.
Yeah, exactly right. But the only thing is, because of obviously all the lockdowns, so we trained all the way, did a lot of prep for it, and then 4 days before the marathon, there was a lockdown. So then they cancelled the marathon, but we got out the day before, still went down to Gold Coast and did the track, but it wasn't quite the same when you finished after 42K and there's no one standing there. So, stupidly enough, we did the Noosa half this year, and a mate said, the Sydney Marathon's now been put in with with New York and Boston and all the others. He goes, why don't we register and see if we get lucky? And we got lucky. So we're 5 weeks away from...
How is the prep going? Not
enough. We ran 24 the other day, and it struggled. Got to about 20 and the legs started giving in. And I'm sitting there going,
another 22 to go.
Yeah, and that's but it's I think it's more when you finish. It's like it's like the pre-season. You're doing it for a goal. I'm not doing it because I enjoy running. I'm doing it because I spend time with a mate. It gets us away from the kids, but it also knows that you've got that goal to try and achieve something, and you just picture the almost like grand final day. You picture the end result with people there, celebration, other people you've done it with, and a pretty big achievement that you put a lot of time into.
When you do those longer runs, do you get that sense of like every training session during pre-season, games that are really bloody tough, that sense of, it's almost like a sense of pride or a warmth that goes with the energy you've exerted? Like you're still rooted.
Yeah. Yeah, I enjoyed football. So anytime I trained, as soon as you got a ball out there, no problems. Yeah. And you knew if you did the running during training that you could go and kick goals and do the ball part to make it worth it. Yeah, not any part of the running that I sit back and enjoy. It was the first time I actually put in headphones the other day. I actually had to run by myself. And I spent the whole time listening to Kane Corns talk about football, and it makes things go a lot faster. So
why Kane Corns talking about football?
I know, SEN, gives you, so I think
it's a good amount of time.
It was Fireball Friday, whatever. No, it was the Monday. Yeah, so it was them just reviewing the game. And it's like anything, something that I'm passionate to. All of a sudden, you got something you're talking about, a passion, talking about footy, talking about what's happened for the weekend. A lot of it was the St Kilda comeback against Melbourne. And it's something, all of a sudden you look down, there's 10Ks gone because you've got your mind focused on something else. Well, your body's doing something you really don't like.
Well, I know your mindset was, you're a fierce competitor, one of the toughest, and we'll get to that as part of the journey. But where it all started, Colac, Mum Leanne, Dad Bryson, brother and sister, Dylan and Bianca.
Yep.
What was life like for Hodgey growing up down in Colac?
It was Bianca and myself for the first. So Dylan's 12 years younger than me. So for a long time there, I was the younger child, but the youngest was never spoiled. I was a little brat of a kid, but I think in country, everything revolves around your footy community or your sporting community. So the same overlock. So Colac Imperials, Colac West had the same football over where we played, where Dad played. He was trainer at the football club, played cricket. Mum was netball, coached netball, did the canteen. So from a young age, 3 or 4, I think I was at Western Oval in Colac, just running around, doing water boy for the under 17s, doing boundary umpire, and pretty much just lived at the footy oval. Then you'd go and play basketball as well. But I think that's what most country kids do. You spend time with mates at the sporting ovals, enjoying your childhood.
You're naturally gifted, obviously, but do you think the amount of time you spent, there's the book that's around 10,000 hours and so forth. When you do spend so much of your childhood at a place where you have no choice but to play with your mates and kick the footy around, do you think it impacts or it unlocks the talent that you already have?
There's no doubt, because if you compare that to anything outside of ball sport, I'm the most uncoordinated person.
Really?
I've tried to water ski.
No good?
No. Anything, tried to dance, unlike yourself.
It actually makes me cringe a bit.
Without ball sport, I am the most uncoordinated person going around. So there's no doubt, as a kid, having a basketball, having a football, cricket bat, cricket ball in my hands, it definitely helped the hand-eye stuff. And what I notice up in Queensland these days is at recess they play down ball or basketball. At school, we'd get to school early just to kick the footy. Then at recess, you'd kick the footy. Lunchtime, after school, then you'd go to training. So there's no doubt the amount of time that you spent with ball in hand definitely helped you.
The journey from Colac up to Melbourne, the Hawks, pick number 1. There must be a lot of pressure that comes with that. I mean, you had a bit of spunk as a kid, so I'm sure you kind of lapped up that opportunity. But there's still a lot of pressure that comes with being picked up, but also the number 1 pick.
Yeah. I guess back then you didn't have the same media coverage as what you do now. It wasn't built up as much. Obviously, you knew that we're just going to have to leave home, and whether it was Fremantle, West Coast, St Kilda or Hawthorn, you knew it was one of those spots. And there was the big question of Bally, Juddy. The actual fact, I thought Graham Pollock was the best in that draft because he was a 6'4" bloke, could kick the ball, could do anything. But when Hawthorn made that trade, we knew that they were going for a midfielder. So the move up, I got told, it was Lauren's Year 12 graduation dinner, and I got told that day. It was 2 days before the draft. And I remember going there and I was just nervous, just sat there, just excited, but couldn't really say anything. I told Loz, and I think I only told the family the next day. But from that stage, it was when you went to Melbourne, all of a sudden you go to a small country town with 10, 11,000 people.
Yeah.
To Melbourne, where it's Herald Sun front and back, and the draft, and then I think SEN started back then, and there was the Fox Footy, and it was a lot more in your face. And then when you probably don't start the way everyone expected you to, and then Juddy goes across, and as the start he does, you sit back and go, shit, am I really up for this industry?
What were the greatest lessons? And you touched on Loz, that's your wife.
Yep.
So childhood sweethearts, and we'll get to that, and family and how important that is to you. But the initial phase of the journey, what were the key lessons that you learned early days when things weren't necessarily going as good as, say, what Juddy did breaking onto the scene?
I guess the thing that felt me was I got through. You sort of look at, and there's a lot of comparisons with Sam Mitchell and myself. We were in the same draft. Mitch is 2 years older. He got missed the first draft, had to go to Box Hill, prove himself. So he had to do everything he possibly could. I came through as a 17-year-old, and I guess the culture of playing football as a 17-year-old was you go and play footy, and then you rock up at training, and then the next week there was nothing from that game up until the next week. There was no prep for the next week because I guess because all the time that I spent into it come naturally. I could understand the game. I watched a lot of footy. But the dedication, the hard work, the discipline side of things was something that I was miles behind. As a 17-year-old kid, I could understand the game out there, but knowing what to do from when the siren finished to prepare and be able to back it up for the next week, I had no understanding of where it was. And I guess, and this is purely on me, I had a lot of people around the football club who was willing to help, but as a 17-year-old, you got there at a certain way. You don't know what you don't know. I didn't know a lot, but I guess I was too stubborn to want to listen, or I was having too much fun. You're in Melbourne playing AFL football. Why would you change? But then you sort of look back, and then articles start to come that you're not living up to expectations. You get a few injuries because you probably haven't done the work to prepare yourself for what your body's going through.
There's so many defining moments during your career, both good and bad. 2005, you had a club-imposed ban.
The first of one, first of many.
First of a couple. But Clarko, Andrew Russell come to the club. How significant was that for you in the way that they handled you? Obviously, a super talented, future captain of the footy club. But at that stage, maybe needed the eyes to open up a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's at that stage that people mature at different stages. And as I said, I understood football. I didn't understand what needed to come with it. And I think the change then was really a kick in the backside going, hang on. It was my change. It was my chance to try and set a new, an impression of these new guys coming back in. So I found out early there was going to be no special treatment. So when you get there early as a 17-year-old, the coach, Swabby was really good, and so were the senior guys. But it was that he's a 17-year-old kid. Let him be young.
Yeah.
But that dragged on for a long time, and I got comfortable, I guess, having these guys come to the football club. Andrew Russell was probably the firmest one. He's like, no, he's got talent, he's got ability, but he won't make it to where he wants to be if he keeps the same mentality or keeps the same professionalism. So it was tough love. It was, if I didn't do something, if I was lazy, it wasn't like, oh, that's okay, you're maturing. It's smarten up, or else you're not going to live up to it, or else you're going to let yourself down, let your family down, and that kind of stuff. And I guess the change when Clarko and Jack got there also put Richie Vandenberg as captain. Yeah. And I guess he was the one who was the enforcer for the rules they were trying to put in. If anyone was like, I remember we went down to, we had an early session, and I think it was Zach Dawson. Zach Dawson wore the wrong attire. This is the stage. This is how bad we were as far as professionalism. Like, we wanted to make sure we were anal in everything we did. So Zach Dawson rocked up with wrong socks on or something, and we got a beach session for it, for wearing the wrong attire to a training session. But it was these little things, that small things grow into massive things if you let them go. So I was like, nip it in the butt, and this is what we're going to make everything we do from now on perfect as we possibly can be. So we all go down the beach. We get down there. Everyone's there apart from one person, Zach Dawson. So we're all sitting there going, oh shit. So the next day we had to go down the beach again. But what that taught us was, yes, we got punished for one reason, but now we had to call a number above and below. Yeah. So I had to call number 14, I had to call number 16, and we did that. So all of a sudden the mindset has been from every little thing counts, but then also it's not about you getting there. It's about making sure your teammates are there as well. So you started to look from tunnel vision to let's widen the horizon and understand we're all in it together. And if one person fails, then we all do. How much did the early stages of your career help you in your capacity to have empathy or understand, a younger player coming in as you got a little bit older and go, they are young. This is just part of the journey. And then you could kind of normalize some of their behavior because you've been there and done that? Yeah, well, I spoke about Mitch in that earlier. Mitch was that ruthless. He was someone who he had to do everything he possibly could to get drafted, and he turned out to what he did. Like, amazing career through work ethic and just a strong will. And he probably had that harder edge of, they got this opportunity, why aren't they taking the most of it? Yeah. Why aren't they doing everything they possibly can? So I was probably the person who sort of said everyone's wired a little bit different. I think you see Mitch is coaching now. I think he understands that people come in different and people respond to different feedback. Has that surprised you on Mitch because of what you saw as a player? No, because he's smart. Like, he's, as far as understanding a game, I don't think there's anyone who understands it better, but he understands people. Yeah. He knew those blokes, if they fast track by him giving them a bit of tough love, but you also know as a coach, you need to have that relationship. So you'll naturally respect your captain or your leader because you have to as a younger player. As a coach, you need to have that relationship. So if you got to give him a pat on the back, you will. If you've got to give him a fair whack, he's got that relationship to do that. So he's a very, very smart man. So I'm not surprised the way he's been able to change to make those blokes feel comfortable and do the celebrations. Get the best out of them. Yeah, celebrations that I don't even know what they're doing. But it definitely did help me understanding that the pathway I came from. But it's also, I knew that if you give them the right support and show them, not by roaring at them and tell them, you've got to show them and show the care factor, and they'll listen to the advice you want to give them. One of your greatest strengths, obviously I didn't experience it, but my understanding is that you are brutally honest. But you did have the relationships. Was that a combination that you had to be conscious of building so that you could still be yourself and be completely, give them a whack when they need to be? Yeah, I think it's the care factor of the care that I got shown as a kid coming through, because you want everyone to succeed.
Yeah.
And my biggest thing was as a young kid to socialise. If you could go and have a beer with someone, and obviously there's times to have a beer, which I learnt better as I got older.
Push the boundaries
Yeah,
a bit.
yeah. Early on, I thought socialising was the right thing. Team bonding sessions, I used to
Yeah.
call it, but there's rights and wrongs and when to do it. Took me a few years to realise. But yeah, that was one thing. Is I felt that if I did have a good enough relationship that I could, but it was also the follow up that sometimes you've got to be hard on the middle of a game, an important session. You've got to give hard feedback then and there. But as long as you follow it up, and I don't think early on I was great at it. I think I failed in certain areas, but then feedback that you get given, and a lot of the feedback through the leading teams stuff was given about I was ruthless, but you need to follow up and
Stop,
make sure.
keep, starts.
Yeah, the old stop, keep, starts and stuff like that. And there was so much that I learned from those systems. It was the old, you're a great leader on the footy field, but off the footy field, you're probably not because you're not following what everyone else was trying to do, and that's the leadership side.
Yeah.
So you do learn, and I guess the biggest thing for me was accepting that feedback, as much as you may not agree with it at the time. As long as you actually take it on board and move forward with it, that's how you can learn and develop.
I read somewhere that the Kakoda trek was a big part of Hawthorn's pre-season team building, obviously building resilience and team bonding. In 2006, it was a significant moment that changed the way you saw leadership and team. Can you elaborate a bit more on that specifically?
The Kakoda one?
Yeah.
It was pretty much it was actually 2005. Yeah, it was the lead into that, the first year of Clarkson and Russell, and then they did it every 3 years. So we had a massive crew the first year, and then the 2006 and 7, whoever got the next few years come along. So they were always trying to grab at least 15. And I reckon they did 3 or 4 trips there because a lot of our foundations were built off that. So obviously the Kakoda pillars would build the foundations and grow from that: courage, sacrifice, mateship, endurance, that kind of stuff that was built for the diggers back then is what we built our foundations off. And everything we did on the field, off the field, reverted back to those pillars. At least that way, when we went through and did it, like some of the stuff we had to do, like they had a telephone pole that you were carrying, and if Clarko thought that you weren't carrying your weight, he'd stop and he would spray you just to try and understand that there's 40 guys here. If you're not pulling your weight, you're going to someone else is going to have to cover your end. So it's all about working together. We had to get into groups of 6 and have you had like a stretcher. They made up stretchers, and each sandbag was 20 kilos. So they'd put 3 of them on there, and then 4 would have to carry and 2 would have to spot. And there was times, and one thing that changed my mind about teamwork on that trip was you had your 20 kilo backpack, but then also the 20 kilo sandbag. Everyone had one on top. So you're walking with 40 kilos. And I remember Harry Miller, 14, who was an absolute star, come across, just a young Indigenous kid. The steps were probably about that big, and he was struggling to step it up as it was. I remember Trent Crode went and grabbed his sandbag, put it on his back, and started pushing Harry up the steps. I remember sitting there going, this is what they're trying to get out of this camp. Like, Crody's now taking 60 kilos on his back, pushing Harry up the steps just to try and make it easier for him as a senior bloke. So there was a lot of lessons throughout that camp that you sort of sit back and go, shit, this is what they're trying to do. Work for one another, push through your uncomfortable pain and see how far you can really go. But we learn a lot from those trips.
I have no doubt that kind of instilled the behaviours and the values that you alluded to. And then you go on and surprisingly, potentially, in 2008, win the flag.
Yep.
Pretty young group. What was that experience like?
Surprisingly,
Richmond was the last team to beat you that year, by the way.
Round 20. I remember that. But if it wasn't for you guys, we probably wouldn't.
Learn a lesson, did you?
Yeah, well, because from that, we played the best footy we have. I know, because I got rubbed out for Albo and Tolidio. So you saved me a trip to Perth. So we went and played Perth that week, the round 21, beat them by 90. Come back, we played round 22, we played Carlton when Bud kicked his 100th. And Clarko put about 8 blokes in front of Fev when Fev got stuck on 99. I remember sitting on the bench going, what the fuck are you doing? Like, this is the chance that... But in Clarko's mindset, it was like, we're firming for a final series. If someone gets on a roll, like everyone was just trying to feed Fev. Even, I think Brent Guerrero was kicking out. And Fev's like, kick it to me, because everyone wanted to see the double 100. But in Clarko's mind, I was like, no, we're preparing for a final series. If this happened in a final, this is what we need to do. So you can understand where he was coming from. But he was the only person in the stadium who was actually trying to think about that. But that was a lead on. And then we had the Bulldogs first final, won by 40, St Kilda. So going into the grand final, we're sitting here going, we're playing some bloody good football. We're a young team. Clarko had us on edge. And I don't think anyone else outside our rooms probably believed that we could win. And fair enough too. Geelong were best team by far, best team they lost to Port Adelaide. Was the only game they lost that year. But just everything clicked. Cyril's tackle on the wing, Stewie Dew resting forward, kicking 2, setting up 3 in the space of 5 minutes. And all of a sudden it was a fairy tale that no one really believed could happen.
Yeah. What were the lessons in that year that then, you get back there in 2012 and then go on a 3-peat? Was it too early to win 08, or was it? I don't think it's ever too early to win a premiership. No, I couldn't agree more. It took me a long time, and there's plenty that don't get to do it. So
I think I said earlier, it's you learn from your lessons, and what we did was we were a young team. Like I was 24, Mitch was 26, Bud was and Ruffy were 21, Louis was 20. Like we had a young team, so our mindset was, hey, this is going to happen for the next 5 or 6 years. But I think what we did straight afterwards cost us for 2009. I think we had 16 operations between that and round 1. So we had a lot of injuries that we got through. We had Crow with a foot, I had a shoulder. We had a heap of injuries.
Your prep.
It does, but I guess it was in between that break of grand final before you get back from pre-season. You normally have a couple of weeks, then you start fixing on for the next year. But all of a sudden we're on the premiership, and wherever you went, obviously you did the Tassie tour, and then you did the stuff in Hawthorn, and then the boys went on the footy trip. Then you got back and you'd go down to Colac, and then everyone would want to have a beer with you because you won a premiership. Pardon me. And you felt rude if you didn't do it.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, that 2 weeks of celebrating or feeling you can relax after turned into 2 months. And by the time we got back to the pre-season, you'd still go and do your running and all that kind of stuff. But the diet, which is the most important thing, I think it worked out that we had pretty much an extra player in fat with skin folds, because you'd be 3 higher, I'd be 5 higher, someone else would be 6 higher. And all of a sudden, you're behind the 8 ball, plus the injuries, plus the mindset of we're young, who's going to go with us. We probably didn't work on the game style that got us there. You've always got to, what we found afterwards, you always got to continue, whether you win, lose or draw, add on to your game style and how you're going to get better.
Yeah.
So that was probably the biggest thing, because every year after that, 2009 we missed, but the leaders would send out a message. It was almost like a crossroads day that we would sit there and go, you're going to keep going down this unprofessional lifestyle of having beers, drinks whenever you want, or you're going to get to it and become a crossroad, turn, take a left or a right, become a professional and start preparing for next year. And I think you'd know better than me. I think you start to detrain after about 19 days or 19, 20 days. I think that's
I couldn't stop training because people would go way too ahead of me. So,
but that's the thing is, like, I think your body detrains after 19 or 20 days.
Yep.
So we'd get to 2 weeks out and say, all right, you start to focus on next year. So that held us in good stead, because no matter what we did, whether we missed finals, whether we played in a grand final, we lost a grand final, won a grand final, our mindset after 2 weeks was next year is what is our focus, and this is how we're going to get better to continue. So are we surprised at what we're able to do? No, because we learned a lot from the embarrassment of 2009 and missing finals, and it took us a long time to get back there, so we couldn't take it for granted.
Footy and sport has huge similarities to business, organisations, whatever it is that you kind of do, high performers. Often people think that when you're already at the top, and 2012, 13, 14,
yep.
Was that right?
What, 13,
14, 15?
Yeah, we lost 12, thanks. Yeah,
sorry for bringing that up. But everyone thinks that it's easy to kind of just back it up. You've got the systems, you've got the processes. But I know through my own journey, you find, ego starts to creep in and people think they need to improve their own game that actually starts to take away from the team's performance. How did you manage that as you continued to have the success that you did? And I know that the years all look different, but, motivation, maintaining focus, I know that hanging the egos at the door was kind of a theme that you guys had.
Egos on the hook. Yep.
Egos on the hook.
Yep. To be honest, it was Luke Loudon. I've told this story a couple of times, but Luke Loudon hadn't played a game. We got to 2012, lost the grand final. We're in pre-season in Mooloolaba. Our leadership group had just been told, announced them, and we went up there and we said, "Oh, this is what we're gonna live by as leaders and as a football club. This is what we need to do." But it was what the coaches had given us. So the coaches say, "This is what we believe you should do," and then if you do that, that's the standards you need to live by. So then we announced it to him, and Luke Loudon put his hand up and he goes, "Well, that's all good and well, but in big games, pressure situations, you leaders don't do it." And I was like, "You fucking little shit."
How many games did he play at
None.
this stage? Not one game.
Not one.
Pretty courageous.
But and that's where we sort of sit back going, what are you saying if we're shit leaders? But it's also, we gave him an open pathway to be able to talk to us. He felt comfortable enough because there were open communication to give feedback, to receive feedback of what we'd been speaking about for a number of years. He felt comfortable enough that he could do that. So there's two ways. You can either tell him to shut up and go on with what you're doing, or you sit back, take it on board. So we went back the next day, and went all through it. And it wasn't the coaches' things. We went back and what do we believe in? Still had the same pillars of the mateship, courage, sacrifice, endurance. But it was, what do we believe? What do we need to do with the ball? What do we need to do without the ball, away from footy, at the footy club? And we came up with our own beliefs. And what we started to do is mark it on everything, whether it was a training session, you'd give feedback to one another on a training session, on a practice match, home and away. More importantly, on a big game, big final, grand final, you had to stick to these things. So what we did is, it was just routine. And when there was a round one game, we'd sit back, and as a leader, you'd give each other feedback on what you did right or wrong, and be comfortable enough that it was an open conversation. It wasn't personal. It was to make you and us better and help us succeed. So from that discussion, or that comment from Luke Loudon, it changed the whole mindset of how we were going. We were still going okay. We made a prelim, made a grand final, but it was the pressure situations in the last quarter against Collingwood where a couple of us as leaders slipped up. The grand final, when pressure hit us, we didn't do the simple things. We made that second nature to us, and whether every opportunity you had to live by it. So the fact is, as soon as someone started to creep outside their means, it'd be whacked back in, and it wouldn't be waited to be 4 or 5 times. It'd be a constant feedback every week on what you did right, what you did well. And don't get me wrong, if someone did something well, you'd pat them on the back.
Yeah.
And we'd go through and show vision every Monday, the team first stuff, the selfless stuff, the stuff that the media don't see. Who did that off-ball running to go and help someone else? So all these little things that we started to build into our game, it was shown, it was patted on the back, and it was rewarded. So every other person who came into our side knew that this is the stuff that's going to get rewarded from week to week in our side, rather than the kicks, marks, and handballs.
Yeah. Through your career, when was the lowest point, or what was the most trying or challenging moment?
Do you mean as far as doubt? Do you mean as far as
where you felt like you were at your lowest or worst?
My biggest shake-up that I ever got was probably 212. Everyone goes through injuries. I was a 28. I hurt my PCL, and I thought it was supposed to be 3 or 4 weeks. I ended up missing 10 or 12 or 15 for the year, between a calf coming back and knee. And then I remember I was sitting on the couch, and Mike Sheen, he said on the couch, on your show there, he goes, "I don't think Luke Hodge will come back from his knee. His body's copped an absolute pasting."
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, I was sort of sitting there, and I'm like, "Fuck you, Mike." But at the same time, I'm sitting there going, "Shit, is he right?" I went and spoke to Andrew Russell, and he's like, "No, if you do the right things, you'll be able to get back." He goes, "Yep, it's a big operation, your PCL Rico that we're going to have at the end of the year." He goes, "Some don't recover from it, some do." So I'm sitting there going, "Shit, I'm 28. Loz is pregnant with our second. I've got 1 year left on my contract." And I actually agreed with him. I'm like, I need to start to do things on field professionalism, but I need more so I needed to prepare off field, because I was a 28-year-old who put everything. My mindset was I'm going to be a footballer, nothing after that. I didn't think of the next 30 years of what I was going to do. I didn't think of how I was going to prepare or feed my family or look after my family if footy did finish the following year. So I started to develop off field, started doing Channel 7 stuff, did a finance accreditation to help start a finance business with a former teammate, Dan Elstone, and then sort of started to look at other ways. And there's so many people in and around a football club that my mindset was, how could I go and talk to the suits when I'm a football player. Like these guys have got educations, they're CEOs, they run big businesses. But it took me a little bit of talking to them that we've got a lot of skill sets that we have that we take for granted, the day-to-day stuff, the communication, they're trying to upskill people, that they are trying to teach their businesses. So you go and have a bit of a chat with them and all of a sudden you don't think about what they are, what you are. You just have two people on how you can improve in life. And all of a sudden I'm like this is a part that can help me off field as well. So that was the off-field side of things. And from that I went hell-bent from someone who was, I guess early in my career, just a 17-year-old kid to probably I was doing enough in 2012. I'll become captain, but was I doing everything I possibly could to play football as long as I could? And the answer was no. Yep. So Andrew Russell put me in touch with Mark McGrath, who's a body movement specialist. And I was obsessed with him. Every time I'd see him, I'd walk away feeling better. He was out at Hawthorn 2 or 3 days a week. I'd go and see him. So at some weeks I'd see him 4 days a week, just on different movements, coming back from the PCL so I didn't overload other sides of the body. Went and got sauna. Like it was just everything you small did, like saunas a couple of times a week, going to do ice baths, going to all the stuff that you'd pick and choose when to do. I was fixated to playing as long as I possibly could because one, I realised how lucky I was when I was injured, but for two, why would you want to give up a game that you'd actually love doing, which supports for your family, that kind of stuff. So I think without that injury, as much as it was tough that year, there's no way I would have played till I was 35 and did what I was able to do if I didn't sort of get a kick up the arse from Mike on the couch, but obviously listen to him and take it on board.
Speaking of that feedback, was there anyone during your playing days who had the most significant or shaped not only who you were as a player, but who you are today? Was there one particular person?
No, I don't think you can put it down to one person. Like as far as support wise, as a captain, Croft was unreal. He went to Andrew Russell when they first got there and said, mate, you better ease up on this kid or he's going to walk away. And I think Jack said, I don't give a stuff. If he's going to be as good as he can be, he's got to get tough love and have to understand it. So he had support there. Richie Vandenberg, I remember I apologised to him when I become captain and realised how stressful it is when you're trying to set a tone, trying to set a culture, and you got shitheads with influence that were going against what you're trying to see. So I remember I sat down at his house one day and had a beer with him and said, mate, I understand what you're trying to do and I apologise that I probably wasn't as committed to what you needed at the time. Sam Mitchell was massive as far as we got appointed co-captains when Vanders retired at 2007. Jeff Kennett said, no, there's only going to be one of you. The Hawthorns never had co-captains and they never will under his reign. So Mitch was 26 going on 30. I was 24 going on 20. And it was what the club needed at the time. But yeah. Mitch said, he goes, you're obviously the vice captain, but when you mature, you get to that stage, you can take it over. More than happy to step aside and go from that if you get to that stage. But he gave me so much preparation. Like, we'd go in there on a Mad Monday. If there was something that happened on a weekend, he'd be like, well, how would you handle it? And I'd go through and sometimes he'd be like, no, you're fucking way off and go do his own thing. But there'll be other times like, yeah, you're not far off, but have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? So by the time I actually got the reins when I was 27, I'd had 3 years of understanding what I'd do in certain situations. It definitely helped me for it. And then there's blokes off Clarkson, Andrew Russell, physios, but then there's been a lot of blokes that have off field that have really helped as well, which helped mature. A lot of club sponsors, Stewie Giles, Laurie Anderson, these kind of guys that have been support away from footy that you can sort of help develop your off-field preparations for football. Luke Livingston, who in business with at the moment, has been a great supporter. He's gave me an opportunity in a business outside of football, which I've really, really loved. So it's been a network of football people, but also away from the footy field that have really helped develop, and you learn so much from blokes if you take the time to sit down and have a coffee with them.
I think like the point you just made there is taking the time to sit down and have a coffee. You have to have an appetite to kind of learn about people and be curious and go on those journeys to then allow either the lessons or the relationships like a Luke Livingston, which we'll touch on. But retirement version 1, done at the Hawks. You sort of touched on it with the 2012 injury and the fact that kind of allowed you to dabble in a few other interests. What was it actually like fronting up and going, well, my time as a footballer or a professional footballer is done. What's next? Were you clear on the pathway, or was there still some angst about what the everyday was going to look like?
No, it was, Clarko was always he was always a big one that you're only a temporary custodian of the football club. Like, you're a little thing in a big environment, and you make that place as good as you possibly can while you're there. And it got to the stage where Mitch and Louis had left the year before, and then I was coming to my 300th game, and there was so much. Are they going to kick him off like they did the other two? Is he going to retire? Is he going to play on? And I was at the stage where I was really enjoying my football, but it was also at the stage where I was moved to half back because they got in Jager and Tommy. And then I was sitting there playing with Sicily, Burton and Hardwick. And I was just loving footy. It was developing. It wasn't about getting the ball. It was about teaching young kids the role that the stuff that I learned at 23, 24. If I could teach them that at 18, 19, then my job was done. And I just went to Clark. I said, mate, I've been doing Channel 7 for 7 or 8 years. I said, I've got a job there. I'm happy rather than getting all this stuff about is he going to finish off. If this is my last year, I'd prefer to call it now and enjoy it. Finish off, enjoy it, and just be on my way and move on to the next part of my life because of the guys that I sort of mentioned before and that pathway.
So you had a clear pathway. So
yeah. So I'd
Luke
had
Livingston, OCC.
No, that wasn't part of that. No, that was I was just going to go into media and maybe do some part-time coaching. But I'd already agreed with Channel 7 that this was going to be the path I was going to go to. So I was comfortable that my post-football was ready to go. And I didn't want to take a spot because while I was developing those young kids, that we had Birchall out, we had Stratton out, and we had James Frawley all out, that next year they would come back in. So if they come back in and I'm still there, one of those young guys are probably going to miss out and go back to VFL. And the temporary custodian part that didn't feel right. I wasn't going to be a part of the next premiership team. I had a year developing him. My turn to move over and let someone else come in and do that role. And then my last year, football was actually pretty good. I mean, whether it was the shackles were released and it was this, but after I announced it, Fags just sent a message. He goes, "Oh, well, we've got a young team up here. That old body might like some heat. The sunshine might help it." And I was like, "Oh, a bit of a joke round." I ended up coming third in our B&F in my last year. I thought, "Oh, that's all done." But then Fags sort of come. He'd been watching, and I wore the mic against Adelaide, maybe 3 games to go or something like that. Fags heard it, sent it to Greg Swan and said, "This is what we need." And then when I'd finish up at Hawthorn, Fags resent that message. And I'm like, "Nah, I can't do it." And I'm sitting there going, shit, my body feels good. I enjoyed the last part. What would it look like if I did go? And I'd go and talk to a couple of guys. I spoke to Liv, a couple other mates, and I'd have a couple of drinks. I'd be like, I could do this. I spoke with Fags. I said, "Look, I'm interested. I could do it." But every time I'd wake up, can't play against Hawthorn. Couldn't do it. And Lauren at the end of the day just said, "Can you make a decision? Like, can you just make a decision? Because
we're waiting."
Yeah, she's sitting there going, "Well, it's a good opportunity. If it doesn't work, you got 2 years up in Brisbane. Kids are still in school. We've still got a house back here. It's a family trip for 2 years. Good experience." So then I said, "Fags," I'm like, "Well, what do you need from me?" And he goes, "I don't want you to get the ball." I'm like, "Shit, that's good." He goes, "I can coach them before the game. I can coach them at halftime. I can coach them after the game. But it's the bonding that they need because they had that go-home factor of the 24s to 28s. He goes, "What I need you to do is teach them out there what to do and when to do it. If they make a right decision, let them know. If they make a wrong one, give them an option and then follow up with them after the game." And I'm sitting there going, it just put me back into the Hardwick, the Sicily.
Yeah, and what I loved.
What I love, and the passion that I had about it and the development part of the game that I love with the young kids. And yeah, we made the call and I went around and told Clarko.
What was his response?
Well, Clarko was really good because I was doing the Hawthorn book at that stage, and he went through and read the whole book and said, "Mate, I'd check carefully your wording here. I'd change that." So he was really good. And then at the end of it, I waited for him to finish the whole thing. And I'm like, "Fags, I want to know if I want to go to Brisbane." He's like, "Right." I'm like, "Shit, he's going to punch me." And then he's like, "Do you want an extra year at Hawthorn?" He goes, we've still got a spot, we haven't made any major changes. Do you want another spot? I'm like, "No," because the reason why I retired from Hawthorn is for that reason. Like, young kids coming back in, I didn't want to take their spot. I said, my Hawthorn stuff, I loved it, but this is an opportunity where it referred back to Shane Crawford. When Crawford retired because of his knees, he goes 3 months later, he felt great. So he kept running past. He lived in Brighton near Crawford. He reckons he kept running past Clarko's house just to try and see him. "Oh, you're fit. You want to come back and have a go?" He goes, "Because you're a long time retired." And then I said, I'll go back and have a bit of a think. And I went back and saw Clark a week later and said, mate, I think I'm going to do it. I spoke to Fags. And he went from like a mentor to, oh, yeah, so how are they going to get you? I said, oh, they got the number 1 pick in the preseason draft. I'll probably choose that. And he'd gone straight to coach. Well, we've got a lot of late picks. Maybe if we swap them around, and all of a sudden he was trying to get the best deal, just best deal for Hawthorn. But that's sort of how it came apart of the chat from Fags. Wouldn't ever have went up there if it didn't have the trust. I worked closely. I probably worked the closest with Fags out of all the coaches in that time there. Trust and just his passion just got us over the line, knowing that if it didn't work, that we would come back to Melbourne, it would all be the same.
Sitting back now, do you realise the impact that you had on that footy club at that time, and then what's progressed and transpired since? I know that you're a very humble person, but everyone that I speak to within the club talks about how much of a positive impact you had.
I think the biggest thing for me was not going in there and going, oh, at Hawthorn we did this. Because as soon as I did that, if I had have done that, they would have said, piss off, that's a Hawthorn way, we're trying to build our own life. So what I tried to do was just come in and make little small improvements of what I thought they needed to be able to do. The old, as I said earlier, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff that we didn't know when Andrew Russell got there, like Andrew Russell used to walk past and we'd be having bacon and eggs and he would slap us over the back of the head. What are you doing that? If we had a soft drink, what are you having a soft drink for? I remember the first camp in Tassie. I walked in and it was the old buffet style, the cafeteria. We were at a college or a university and we had the massive line and everyone had soft drinks. And I thought, I almost fell over. I thought, if we had done that, Andrew Russell would have belted us. So I walked around. I thought, I can't go and just go rah, rah, rah. So I went and grabbed 5 bottles of water, gave it to the draftees, Rayner, Bailey, Starsby. These guys just went and go and said, mate, you don't need your soft drink. Like, what's that doing? Hydrate with the right stuff and you'll feel better for it. The next day there was about 10. The next day there was 15. So little things like that I tried to do. Just to try and, just to show that you don't have to make big statements to try and improve a culture or teach young kids. And the best part wasn't they were young, they were energetic. Like when you got blokes like Berry, when you got blokes like McCluggage, Rayner was obviously that young one. Spunk was, Witherden was another one where they loved football, they were passionate and they wanted to soak in the information. So it was an easy role to go up there and teach them because they wanted to learn. But I will to have an impact up there, the young guys was wrapped. They were just as good for us as what I was for them. Like made the family feel comfortable. When you've got a 9-year-old kid in Cooper, you bring him down and he's kicking with Charlie Cameron, he's kicking with Harris Andrews. Next thing, Lockie Neal comes across and Lockie's sending him videos on how to do touch work. You sort of sit back and go, they've embraced you just as much as what you've embraced them.
Family is a big part, particularly when you have kids young. You've obviously been with Loz since you're a teenager.
Yep.
Childhood sweetheart. We love to talk about what the keys for people in relationships are. It's hard to value a successful marriage and so forth, but if you've got 4 happy and healthy kids and a relationship where there is understanding, what are the keys to what's made your journey together? And what do you love most about Loz?
I think she's just a fun-loving person. I think you sort of go back if there's, I know that my uncle and brother will come around. They come around to have a drink with Loz and not to chat to me because she's energetic. She loves people. She loves enjoying it. But I think one good thing is she's just a kind person. She understands, obviously with football, the travel we had to go through with football, going away every second week, and even in my job now. Like I'm away Tuesday nights, I'm away Thursday nights. Sometimes I might be away for a whole week. I know Gather Round last year, I had to go down for the Tuesday. This year, sorry, agenda setters. I wasn't back until Monday night and then had to go down Tuesday. But she'd been in the footy industry for that long. She understands that you may have to go away, but then when the season settles, you're there more than or you're there as often as you possibly can. So that's definitely helped. I know the year of COVID where I stayed at home for 18 months and she goes, I love you, but thank God you're traveling again because whenever I was home, there was always footy on, there was cricket on, there was golf on. She can't stand watching half of those. So, but I think it's that fun-loving banter as well. Like, she'll take the mickey out of me as much as I can take the mickey out of her. And then with the boys, she's just that good with the kids. She always sees the best in people, which is great.
I remember meeting your eldest Coop at his primary school over Baldwin or Hawthorn way. God, maybe in my first couple of years, he would have been 6 years old, I reckon, 7 years old. grade 1 or 2?
Yeah. I remember because he came home, he wanted to back for Richmond afterwards.
Jeez, see, positive influence. He probably
Campbell South Primary School.
Yeah, there
yes,
you go.
that's right.
He's now at an age where people are starting to talk about what his journey might look like. And I know that you've got 3 other boys as well as Coops. How hard is it for someone who has had the success that you've had in your sporting career and life to then kind of try and protect and nurture these boys to absolutely strive for whatever they want to achieve in their life, but also knowing what is out there?
Yeah.
It must be a fine balance.
Yeah, it is. Because I know I've seen a lot of parents along
He's
the way.
draftable in 2026?
Yes, next year, yeah. I've seen a lot of parents with a tough love, and I've seen how much that's hurt. And that's not just football, that's in all sports.
Yeah.
When you get parents are passionate to make their kids succeed, but sometimes they're too passionate. And I've seen that work against the players and their passion, and they all of a sudden they dwindle away and they give up on sport, or they don't achieve because they don't want to do the extras because there's too much pressure on them. I've never wanted to put pressure on kids on what they wanted to do, whether it was cricket, footy, basketball, they wanted to go and play guitar, whatever they wanted to do, I was happy to, but as long as they knew that we're there for support. And there's been times where Coops come out and he goes, can we go and do some touch stuff? I'm like, yeah, no problems at all. So I'm like, I was never known for my ball handling, so because of so we messaged Lockie Neal, and Lockie sent back about 10 different ball handling stuff that he does daily to make sure he's switched on. So guess what? So Coop's out there, so we go and buy some rebounder nets and all that kind of stuff. But it's also the stage, if he doesn't come to me and say, can we do this? I'm not going to say, hey, mate, we haven't done it for 2 weeks. It's on you. And if he fumbles throughout the game, I'm like, well, have you been doing it all the stuff that people would remind me throughout my career, I'll just sort of flag it back up there. Yeah. So one good thing about Coop, he's passionate, he wants to do it. He's a lot more dedicated at that age than what I was, because I think he's seen what work has to go in to try and succeed in that industry. But I think he's enjoying it at the moment.
What do you think your best attribute is as a dad?
I very rarely say no. I'm one of the ones where I'll say, you're not doing that. And then at the end of the day, I say, come on, let's go and do it. I'm as much as I try, and manners and all that kind of stuff, I'm massive on. But I also want the boys to have a good time if it's taking them somewhere, because I am traveling so much. I'll try and make if I do something with them, I've got them for a little bit. I'll try and obviously go and do something, make it their memory worth it. Like last year, we were able to have Coop made the school basketball team to go to America last year, so be able to go and do trips like that where you go and take and watch a few NBA games and that kind of stuff. You always try and, I guess, spoil them enough without being little brats, because kids can be little brats at times, because I know that I definitely was as a kid.
The evolution of yourself, have you always had an appetite to kind of want to learn and grow? I know that you spoke about being in a successful team, you have to evolve and adapt because everyone's trying to chase you. You've been a high performer for a long time. Do you have an appetite to kind of go out there and listen to different podcasts or read books, or is it more you just like to experience through relationships and learn that way?
No, I would have said early on, no, I was comfortable just
finding your way.
Yeah, I was comfortable as a 17-year-old kid getting drafted. Why change? Like that's fine. Like you got here for a reason. Yeah. Why do something else that works for other people? As you mature, you understand that you need to try different things to understand how it can make you better. If you're going to sit and be happy with how you are, then you're not going to get very far in life. So I think by having those conversations, people put you onto certain things, whether it is listen to a podcast, whether it is going to do that extra little bit of football, or go and chat to certain people, even though they're uncomfortable chats. I feel it's always important to grow, because the Luke Livingston OCC thing, that sort of fell into my hands as far as he needed someone up there, and he needed a trustworthy person who's good mates with to oversee things. And
where did the relationship start with Livo?
Brent Guerrero had come across, and they played junior footy and were best mates since kids.
Yeah.
And then obviously Livo's just a lovable, fun-loving guy who knows every person in Melbourne, I think. And it's just the same thing. He's got 3 kids. We've got 4 boys. Wives get along really well. And then if I need to come to Melbourne, I'd normally stay at his house. If he comes to Brisbane, he stays at our house. And it's just been two country boys who enjoy each other's time, have a beer, have a good time. And then I guess with that, obviously the same mindset, the same family, I guess, qualities, we're very similar.
Yeah.
And then, with that, it's just sort of grown and it gave us an opportunity. It's something that I've really enjoyed, and it's added something different outside of football, because you said football takes up so much of your life. If you can have something outside for you to go home and focus on, it does ease the pain and gives you something else to put your mind to.
You've got a couple of businesses, a new one, the traffic control, ProTech.
Yep, ProTech Traffic. Yep.
How's that going?
Good.
Obviously, very much in its infancy.
Yeah, so we've been going for 7 or 8 months. So I guess that's an alignment off the OCC, which is OCC's a
labour hire.
Labour hire, yeah, building construction labour hire company. And then what we've found out is there's everywhere you go, all the developments that's going on all around Australia, traffic. So obviously the next fit from a building construction company is a labour hire, which we've been able to do, and it's very busy. We've kicked off in Brisbane. We're down in Melbourne, going to Sydney and Tassie very soon, which is
Hodgstone Finance still.
Hodgstone Finance is still. I'm not in that anymore. So I started out with Daniel Elstone in 2014. It gave me enough time after my knee to do the qualifications, the Cert 4 in finances, and then I found out office not for me, and Dan was doing all the work. So Dan's still doing that and going really well at it. Still got the Hodgstone Finance, name, but it's good to say it's one thing I thought through football, you build trust, you build relationships with people, and you can go into and people sort of say don't go into business with mates or friends or family. It's different if you got an honest one, and I was on an ask. Dan sat down and sort of said, how much time can you commit to this? And I thought early on it was going to be good with contacts I had through football, and we agreed that I probably couldn't give it the time and effort. So it was only fitting that I parted ways and Dan took it over himself. So I think you can do that with friends, family, as long as you've got honest conversations.
Is it honesty and the alignment?
It's honesty, but it's also your understanding on what you can commit to it. With Dan, it wouldn't be fair if he's doing 99% of the work and getting 50% of the income from it.
Yeah.
But you've got to have that relationship, the trust, and obviously be smart enough to yourself to sort of say, what can you give and what can't you give? And that's where it's Dan and myself are still great mates at the moment, because we're able to handle that, move the business over to him, and move from there. So I think that's the most important thing. And that's what I've learned through, as I said, the years of the football, as I sort of mentioned before, about you see blokes in suits. Footballers can't go and talk to them. Yeah. Yes, they can, because the stuff that we do have, the understanding that we do, that slips straight into business. With all the stuff that we've had to live and breathe since we were 17.
What has been your greatest lesson since being in business?
Great. Don't assume things are just going well, and don't. The biggest one is when you sit back and go, "Oh, things are actually going pretty well at the moment." No, they're not. No, because it's the next thing's gonna. You always. I know there's a footy thing that we used to have. Expect the unexpected. Be comfortable. What's the old saying? Be comfortable being uncomfortable, because one thing I've noticed, as soon as you sit down in business and go, we're going pretty well here, something will happen.
Yeah.
And especially in building constructions, it's your reliance on people, reliance on clients, reliance on workers, reliance on so much other things. You always have to be on edge and just be ready for the next thing to come up, because it will be there very quickly. You just got to expect and handle it calmly. You can't fly off the handle at something. You need to be calm and make a calculated decision, because the emotional side of things doesn't work.
Great advice. I'm sure that there's many people in business that are thinking very much or aligned in your thinking there. I'm going to have some quick fire questions. Is there anything that you are scared of?
Failure.
How do you, I think that would be a lot of people. How have you then taken the risk in business or in life or in footy, knowing that that's one of your greatest? Or have you had to reframe what failure is or how it motivates you?
I think failure is, my biggest thing is make mistakes.
Yeah.
Like if you're a young kid playing football, if you go into business, the best thing is to try things and make mistakes, because that's how you learn.
Yeah.
Failure to me is making mistakes time and time again and not learning from it.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by failure. If I do something bad as a parent, don't do it next time.
Yep.
Like, learn from it. If I did something bad as a captain, as a vice captain, as a player, which I did multiple times, learn from it.
Yep.
So my biggest thing as far as failure is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Yeah. I had someone also reframe it in failure is only failure if you actually give up on what you're working towards.
Which is not learning. Yeah,
correct. Second one, what's the hardest thing you've ever been through and what did it teach you?
Hardest thing. Oh, there's so many throughout life. Like, there is the injury which sort of reset my whole life of what I need to do to prepare. I've had stuff ups. I've had the drink driving thing on the eve of the 2015 finals where it was no one else to blame but myself.
Yep.
And the other thing is, do you know when you try and justify, and this is what makes me angry, people when they do something wrong but they can justify to get themselves out of it.
Yeah,
I went through that. I was one beer over.
Yeah.
And then even people around me going, well, you were one beer over in New South Wales when they were growing up. You could be 0.08.
Yeah.
That's irrelevant. That's what it was I was one beer over, so I made a mistake and I got to cop the grief. And that's the thing is the thing was the advice from the Hawthorn was face it, go up there, go up with, I think it was Hamish on the footy on that Friday night and put your hand up, because if you bullshit and try and get away with it and lie your way out of it, people are going to think you're a bullshit ass the whole time. Own up to it, put your hand up and don't bloody do it again. So that's probably the toughest one, because the hardest part out of it was we got back from the footy and then obviously the media got a hold of it. So I'm taking my kids to, I think it was to futsal, and there's camera crew and there's cameras outside my house.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're fucking serious? And this is what I got pretty wild about that, more the fact that private part, family, kids, a video on the kids going to sport. So then my wife had to take the kids down to Geelong just so they didn't get captured and all that. And then I had to sit down with Coop and sort of say, look, Dad stuffed up. Like, he did this and that. I'll own it, this and that. So you might have to just go down for a couple of days till things settle down. But that's one of those things where there's so many different parts of that night where I stopped drinking 2.5 hours before I went.
Yeah.
Thinking I was okay. And I think that's why the club went not easy on me. Clarko still called me a dickhead. Yeah. What are you doing? But he's like, I know what you're like. I think there was a photo in the Herald Sun from Tony Hasham, and it was at 10:30, and I had a bottle of water in front of me.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of sitting there, and they realised that I wouldn't have went and tried to do that. But yeah, at the end of the day, you make a mistake, own up to it. But that was the biggest life change, that we're in the public eye, and anything that you do, and people still now message you.
Yeah.
If I can drink drive, I'm like,
yeah, let go.
Yeah, but that's the thing is people. This is what I try to tell Coop as a lesson is people who write on Twitter and Instagram, they're bullies at home who sit back and have nothing better to do. Like the ones
have you had to because I know myself, anytime you cop feedback, I just picture a particular type of person sitting in the back room of who's middle-aged or even older, still living with their parents. Yeah. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but this is what I picture. And it's like, does their opinion really matter to me in my life if I know I'm doing mostly good things?
What I said earlier about the business part is don't make a rash decision on emotions. Yeah. The amount of times I've written a reply, left it there, I've come back an hour later gone, thank God I didn't send that. Or I'll give it to Lauren. And Lauren's like,
does it achieve anything?
What are you going to get? That's going to be back and forth. So it is. And I think you're going to sort of say, have you given advice to Coop? Yeah, you do, because he's going to go through an industry where he's getting questions now. It's going to be Brisbane. It's going to be Hawthorn.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm 16.
I just love playing footy.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is you go, and I said, mate, you need to understand that if you're going to come into this industry, I said, people are going to have a crack that you're only here because of your dad. People are going to say different stuff. Like, you need to either have a smart aleck come back, which is pretty funny, where his teammates are going to laugh at him, or just smile. I said, if you're going to start fighting and reacting to it, everyone's going to do it to you.
Yeah.
And it's the same as questions. You prefer to people ask you questions or talk about you than not mention you at all.
Yeah.
So it's that calming stuff that you try and pass on.
Instilling it. I like it. What's one thing? I mean, you're a very well-known person, but I feel like there's a whole heap of a deeper level Luke Hodge that maybe people don't know about unless they're very much in your circle. What's one thing you wish more people knew about you?
No, nothing. As I said, I'm pretty private. I joke around. I think people know enough about a lot of people, and anything. If people find out so much about you, they use that against you. So I am reasonably private in certain things. The less that people know, I think the better, because they can't use things against you.
Has that been instilled from, say, your upbringing or your parents? Like, you're obviously a man of values. You're very humble. You really care about people, as we've established through your journey, later in stages of the whole time through the Hawks, but the reason for going to the Lions. Is that been instilled from the way your parents parented you? Has it just been how you've been from day one?
I find if people don't know enough about you, they don't talk about you. And I've got massive anxiety. I public speak. I don't hate it. I sit back. I second guess what I should say when I go and do a show. I second guess what I've said, because massive anxiety about that sort of stuff. But an option for me is to stay involved in football, and the best way of staying involved in football is to do those things as a living. So the biggest thing for me is the less that you try and put out there yourself, the less that people know and will have a crack at you about. But in saying that, I guess I am open to a lot of things a lot of people do. I do a lot of media stuff. I involve my kids in a lot of things, my family in a lot of stuff. So I think I'm a lot more open than other people. But I guess only real true friends know the inner you, as a lot of people out there probably do as well.
It's funny you say that about the anxiety and so forth. We were invited by Fags at the beginning of the final series last year for the Lions. And me sitting next to you in a room in front of, a club that you played at as well. But it's so funny, some of the thoughts that you start to tell yourself, like, are my insights going to be as valuable as Hodgey's? And it's so weird to think that happens. Does it happen to you in any scenarios?
I'm sitting here, I've got sweat patches because I'm paranoid that, what am I going to say? I'm going to make a fool of myself, or unsure, considering the people you've had on the podcast beforehand. I don't think it's a bad thing, because you care what other people think. The only thing is sometimes you let the people that you shouldn't worry about, that affects your thought process as well. So I don't know, it's something I've always had. I've always second guessed. If you talk to any of my teammates, me talking in front of a group at an AGM or at a BNF, hated it. Absolutely I get the croaky, I get the soft voice. I think I even had at the start of the show. You get the hesitation, the nervousness. It comes out of my voice straight away.
I think so many people would be surprised to hear that, given, as you said, your role in the media, and you have been the face of football clubs in the past. Is it, and you touched on it. I think mine comes from a place of genuine care. Like, I want people to get some sort of value out of it. And I think the story I tell myself is, if they take one little thing away from any conversation, then it's worthwhile.
Yeah, I think I felt more comfortable speaking on the football field on grand final day in front of 100,000 people than what I did in a room of 30. Of suits. And that go back to the thing is, you got to tell yourself that your messages are crucial for them, but it's that doubt that you do, where on the footy field, I'm in my comfortable spot. I've made more mistakes out in the footy field than I did making a speech out in the footy field in front of 100,000 people. And you always know you can learn from it, where the unsure of what they're thinking about me is, am I getting the message across that I'm trying to in a clear way, or are they sitting there going, this bloke's wasting my time, what's he telling us for, because all he did was kick a football? I think it's the unsureness, the doubt that goes through your head, which I think comes with it. But I think you get off there and you sort of reach, was it okay? Was it? And as soon as someone goes, yeah, it was perfect. Or it was okay, or you didn't stuff up, that's probably the best thing that you like to hear.
Final of the quick fire. How do you define success now?
Success changes in every facet of your life. Getting drafted, that was successful. Playing my first game was successful. Winning the premiership was successful. The move to Brisbane. So I think you've got to have goals at different phases of your life. And my goal at this phase is do my job the best I possibly can. And that's, at this stage, the priority is the kids. Losing the kids, making sure that you're doing the right thing, you're getting spend enough time with them, with all the travel work commitments you do, supporting them where you can. So if you can help them as much as you can, that's the tick off the first part of being successful as a dad. And then the work part, try and give everything you possibly can while you do it. There's a lot of research that goes into football, and it's just that balance for me of doing it at home, but then also doing it when the kids are home. You're often doing stuff with them.
Yeah.
So, the successful part for me changes throughout life, and at this stage is about setting up for the kids, making sure that their childhood's enjoyable. The pressure that comes as a kid, that you're there to support them when you can, and then obviously football wise is doing what we're doing and trying to not stuff up when you can.
You are doing a great job. 2-1s on football. What's your take on the current game today?
Well, if you look at the few recent weeks, the Wanganeen-Malira game, if a game was played like that, where take the game on, move it, I think people are in uproar with the umpiring side of things. I think we've tried to overcomplicate things. The holding the ball, all this stuff. What I think Greg Swan coming in needs to do is go back and make things, just simplify things.
Yeah.
Because we tried to be smart. We tried, if you've got an option, did he have prior opportunity? Did he get his foot to it? Was he holding the ball in? They've reacted, and a lot of it has been a reaction because players and coaches will find the way to get around a rule.
Yeah.
I think they need to simplify it, because being an umpire, and I know we had a bit of a crack at the umpires early on, not about their decisions, it was about the Schilt stuff, which found out that information come wrong to us and we were incorrect. But we need to simplify it for the umpires. Go back to the old thing is, if it's holding the ball, it's holding the ball. And then everyone will be understanding, because now no one understands the rules. And that's what makes people frustrated.
Yeah.
And as soon as people are frustrated, they get an uproar, and then it just piles on. So I still love the game. I still love going to watch the game. I watch as much football as I possibly can. But yeah, you need a bit more flair and a bit more understanding from the rule side of things.
The final one that we love to ask, grateful for your time so far, is if you could go back and give your 16-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
It's probably the stuff that I've taught the other guys. Listen to people around you. There's so many people around you that are willing to learn, are willing to teach you and fast track your development. So always listen to different people's advice if they're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Because I know that when I went through, I tracked the blokes that I wanted to, because it was what I wanted to do. There's so many people there that were there willing to help, and I'd sort of brushed them off till I got a little bit older. So you understand who's got the right work ethic, who's a good person. Search them out, seek their advice, and listen to them.
Sound advice from one of the greatest to ever play the game, Hodgey. Grateful for you to come along
thanks for having me.
And share a bit more of your journey, not just your football journey, but also life, business. I wish you the best, and look forward to catching up again soon.
Thank you, mate.